everyone, the high-res community. Welcome to you, Marcus. Extremely happy to have you here tonight in our more intimate setting. Again, to all of you that may be new to high-rise or that have just delved into your first masterclass, it's a format that we run exclusively for you as our community, where we usually invite an expert that is talking about a topic that they feel passionate about. Today, Marcus, that's you. I think we talked 2 or 3 months ago for the first time, and today you'll be telling us more about your take on running high conversion discovery calls, which is also something that we cover in our bootcamp extensively. So really looking forward to getting your input there. And on behalf of the entire community, big welcome and thanks for joining today.
Awesome. Well, Dominic, thank you so much for having me on. High-rise community. I'm very excited to be here, right? I'll tell you right now, it's very rare that I have someone reach out to me like 4 or 5 months in advance for something like this. And that's exactly what Dominic did, which is awesome. Most of the time it's like, hey, in 2 weeks, we're going to do this webinar, this training, this masterclass. Can you come and help out? So give them huge kudos. So you guys are part of a really great community, first off. So I just want to give some major kudos to you, Dominic. Now, second, before we dive into everything here, I just want to make sure you can hear and see me okay. So to make sure you can see and hear me okay, just drop in the chat what you had for breakfast. Drop in the chat what you had for breakfast so I know you can hear me. Everyone always says drop in whatever city or country. Let's have some fun. Drop in. What did you have for breakfast today? Nothing. Protein shake. Great. Bagel. Awesome. All right, cool. Don't be shy here. There's no judgment here. This is a judgment-free zone. Cereal. Fantastic. I love it. So I literally just drink coffee. So here's the secret. I have coffee and protein powder inside. So it's like a protein shake. So eggs sunny side up, loads of coffee. Oh yeah. Yogurt. All right, cool. Now I know you guys can hear me. Fantastic. We're going to get rocking today. All right. So in this train today, here's what we're going to cover. We're going to cover, how to run discovery calls with a 30% plus closing ratio. This is for deals that are, 3,000, I put down dollar share, but this could be 3,000 euros to 5 million euros plus in annual recurring revenue. That's also customer-centric, value-added, and doesn't feel like an interrogation, and can literally generate thousands of dollars in commissions as a result. Okay, so this is gonna be a really, really fun training, but just so you have an idea exactly what we're going to cover today, before we go into everything, I do want to share my background so you have a little bit of context. Some of you know who I am. Oh, go ahead.
Yep. And let me do just that, right? So for everyone, for all of you, I mean, it's been covered in the invite, but just to give some more context, right, and why we asked you. So first off, I think that you have been in corporate America for about 14 years before you do what you do today. And now I think you're the co-founder or the sole founder of, do you call it Venli Consulting Group?
That's it.
Help B2B sales professionals be more successful, and that way also ultimately earn more money through coaching and training programs. I think one thing that you achieved is while you worked in the Fortune 500 organizations is that you were promoted, I think, 10 times in 10 years.
So technically it's actually 12 times, but 10 times that 10 years sounds way better from a marketing perspective.
Which it's easier to remember too.
Totally.
Which is crazy. You won awards, countless. You've been ranked in the top percentile every year. And you also led in one of your roles, region, one of the most successful sales regions, where you managed, I think, about 110 employees.
Yep.
So with that being said, of course, I think it's just a logical consequence that you've also named a top sales expert by Salesforce and LinkedIn, which is also how I found you. And that's why I reached out to you. And anything you do want to add, please feel free to.
Cool. So we'll get into that as well. I thank you so much. I appreciate that, because I think sometimes when people hear all the accolades, like, oh, this guy was born this way. I definitely was not. So I used to be the worst salesperson. So I'll explain that a little bit as well. But I appreciate that. That was really, really great. We'll also cover why discovery is the most important part of the process, how it actually fits in the whole sales process so we're on the same page, why an awesome discovery, or disco as it's sometimes called, is like making a fantastic holiday dinner. We'll cover that as well. The truth about the buyer's journey, the exact discovery call flow for selling those big deals, and we'll do also open Q&A as well. All right. Now, perfect. I do want to get, before we dive into, I do want to give you a little bit of context on my background, because, as Dominic said, I didn't always run my own business. As he mentioned, I got over 14 years experience. This is anything from outside B2B sales roles to executive sales leadership roles. I only worked for 2 major Fortune 500 companies, and I was promoted a bunch of times, won council awards, President's Club, et cetera. You can see me there. And my last role was leading 100 plus employees. We did about 9 figures every single year in contracts. Okay. I did that for about 4 or 5 years doing that role. And then it put me in the position to actually retire at 35 to do whatever I want. And you can see here in some of the pictures here that, different awards events, giving massive keynotes, riding corporate jets. And yeah, I know I had way more hair back then as well. So I'm fully aware of that. Right. But the most important thing, these are all cool accolades. What I'm probably most proud of is just having had the opportunity to develop really thousands of salespeople, right? Whether they're brand new to having 20, 30 years of sales experience in just dozens of countries, to actually have the skills and knowledge to be really successful in sales. That's why I love doing stuff like this, because it's going to help you hopefully compound your future to become better. Okay. Now here's
Marcus,
the thing,
just for expectation management, Marcus, sorry to interrupt you. You know that everything that you just showed us is to Europeans. That stellar, picture perfect American lifestyle. From like a dishwasher to a millionaire kind of thing. So that to many on the call, that might be very stereotypical. Again, right? Many are, you have some German, Spanish, people from India on this call. So just for you to know, that is about as far, or that may seem very far to most of them that are just about getting started on their SDR role today. But I like, picturing that in terms of that's what's possible. And maybe at some point, Marcus, you can shed more light on how you got started with your sales career. Doesn't have to be now, but just to get that humbling experience for everyone, that it is possible to get there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So this is actually why I give you context of what it can become, but it's important to understand where I started. And this is actually me when I started right here. You can see on screen. All right. First outside sales, like just graduated. This is me wearing the American college robe that we do when we graduate. And I got my first role in a brand new startup. It was full cycle. So if you're not familiar with what that means I had to prospect, present, close, and grow the account, everything. I was also responsible for customer success as well. But it was also a brand new startup that had 0 customers. So we didn't have an ICP, ideal customer profile. We didn't have really a target market. It was literally, they said, hey, good luck. They gave me a book written by, a manual written by people who had never done the job before, and said, good luck. But being, new, I was really excited to just kind of take on the world, make my mark. But kind of long story short, like I mentioned, I was the worst rep. I actually had the highest activity. I had the most calls, the most emails and everything. But I struggled. And I was almost fired or, made redundant, and almost lost my job based on my performance after the first 8 weeks. Now, eventually I did figure it out and had success, but it's with some of the stuff I'm going to show you today that really were fundamental shifts to how I ran my process that really changed my results and got me to be able to, achieve the awards and do all those cool things, right? Like even from doing this, but then taking the same things, applying to my own business and, having some pretty cool success in the last couple of years for my business as well. But here's the thing, in this whole journey, I made a lot of mistakes. And really the goal of today's training is to share with you some of those learnings so you can apply these immediately to get results as well. So you can, ultimately close more opportunities, get promoted to all these things. Okay. So if that sounds good, just type in a 1 if that sounds good so far. Give me a 1 if it sounds good so far. Beautiful. Make sure you're all paying attention. Give me a 1. There you go. All right, put your drink down, just making sure. All right, cool. Okay, cool. Okay, let's go ahead and dive in now. All right. So let's dive into the meat and potatoes here. Okay. And if you want this document later, let me know. I can send it over to Dominic. This way you guys can make a copy and have your own as well. And what I do want to show you today, it's not theory. It's exactly what I've done, whether it's my corporate career to my own business. All right. There is no, somebody in America, they call it, what's your secret sauce? What's the magic phrase? What's the magic question you ask? There is no secret sauce. There is no magic phrase. These may seem very simple in nature when I go through it, but they work when done consistently and effectively. Okay. So first off, I want to make sure we have some good framing here. So it's important to understand why discovery is the most important part of the process. When you do a proper discovery, this allows you to truly qualify and uncover needs. One of the things I did not realize when I first started was it's important to qualify, but it's just as important to disqualify opportunities as well. And I didn't realize it early on because I was trying to book as many meetings as possible, trying to meet with everybody. But you find out pretty quickly when you try to, shoot for everyone, you end up getting nothing. So you have to be targeted. So discovery also helps you build trust. This is very key, building trust in the sales process. When you do it effectively, it'll actually shorten down your sales cycle drastically. Really important. And I'm a firm believer that 99% of deals are actually lost due to a poor discovery. When you do it properly as well, you'll obviously close more. You also close bigger deals, and you'll maximize the deals as well. So a lot of times people don't realize when they're trying to do what's called a land and expand, which means close a deal, and maybe they get 1 or 2 products in and they want to get more. Well, when you do a proper discovery, you can actually get more products up front, meaning you have a larger opportunity in the deal as a stickier business, you can expand bigger, okay? But also on top of that, really, it impacts your commission too, right? Once you're in the closing role, you get paid off it. Like for example here, if you got paid 10% commission on say a $500,000, 500,000 euro opportunity, that's $50,000 in potential commissions, okay? If it's a 2.5 million euro opportunity, 10% is now 250,000 euros in commission. So this is why for me, whenever I'm working with clients, we're diving into their scenario, like the deals that they lose almost always can be tied back to discovery. Okay. That's what happens. So I'll give you some examples here, right? So this is like, I pulled some data right here. So I can show it to you, right? So even for my own business in the last 4 or 5, I think it was 4 or 5 months data, for my sales team, we ran 240 sales calls. And we had 34% close rate, 34.93% close rate. Okay. This is running our sales process as well. All right. And if you do things properly as well, we don't have time for this, but you also have kind of a high show up rate as well. So we ran a 95.42% show up rate. Okay. But the thing is, it's not because I'm special. So I want to show you that really anybody can do it. Right. So this is Jaden here. He's one of my clients. I mean, literally just doing exactly what we talked about here. He closed a deal for 10K plus in commissions to Simmer here. Because the discovery really improved, his deal size increased as well from 3,000 USD to 25K as well. So you can't get my point. Jordan here, he was pretty new to sales, $8,000 deal closed. Preston here, it's a $9,000 deal. So I show you these because I'm nobody special. Okay, so I'm nobody special here. All right, and really, when you can apply something I'm going to show you today, you can really get results there. Okay, so that makes sense so far. Just type in a 2. Type in a 2 if it makes sense so far. You follow me so far?
Okay, cool, and I hope that sounds familiar to most of you, right? We're also firm believers, Marcus. So you're preaching to the choir that most mistakes are being made in a discovery process being done poorly. I think what most newbies to sales try to do is try to qualify every single deal because they feel they have to qualify, and it's not okay to disqualify. And I think that's a very common mistake to do. So I'm happy that you got everyone on the same page.
Absolutely, because if you are in an SDR or BDR role, top of the funnel role, and obviously majority of comp plans you're paid on the qualification opportunity, hopefully they close, etc. It can be very frustrating if you are actually paid on the closed deals. And if you're just booking a bunch of meetings that are not actually qualified, but they're filling up the account executive's calendar, but they're not closing, you may potentially be second guessing yourself in if you can even do the job. But the truth is, you just have to get a little bit better at your job. And then it's a big difference as well. It may mean less meetings at first, but now they're better quality meetings. So your throughput to your funnel is actually higher. All right. So to make sure we're on the same page, I do want to kind of just discuss how a discovery fits into the whole sales process. Make sure we're on the same page here. This is let me pull this up. This is a little bit okay. I don't want to log in, so I'm just gonna show this. Make this a little bit bigger so you can see us. Okay. Okay. So this is kind of your. I mean, you can ignore the stuff up top, but I kind of want to just kind of show. This is like a very simple sales process here. You make a phone call, you book the appointment. And then you have a discovery, a demo, presentation, close, onboard customer success. Okay. Now, make sure we're on the same page here. When I talk about discovery here, the truth is this. When you really think about how discovery is really effectively done, especially when it's a really big opportunity, a discovery is really all throughout the whole process. All right. So I'm not talking about that right now. What I'm talking about in terms of today's conversation, we're talking about you book the meeting It's that first time you're on the phone or on Zoom with them and you're doing a deep dive into their needs and what's going on with them. That's the point where we are right here. Okay. But just beware, the top sales professionals understand discovery is like the whole process, because you may have multiple meetings, multiple stakeholders, multiple people, and each time is like a mini discovery each time. So, all right. So really, really important to understand. Okay. But we're covering basically right here, the discovery to the next step, which could be next meetings or just a demo presentation, etc. Okay. So I do want to share here first off. I had more hair back here as well, so I couldn't find a holiday picture that I wanted. So, what I want to share with you is let me pause for a second. How many of you feel like you're pretty good at cooking? Just type in a me if you feel like you're pretty good at cooking. Don't be shy. You can brag here if you feel like you're okay at cooking. You don't be amazing, but you feel okay at cooking. All right, turns out nobody cooks here. Okay, all right, okay. It's just a little bit delayed. There you go. There we go. There we go. All right, cool. I'm a very good cook. See, Linda's like, I'm a very good cook. I love it. That's fantastic. So yeah, you gotta be confident. You have some confidence here. So here's the thing. Here's what I found. So I'll give you an example here. So I remember this is a few years back. I'm an okay cook. Even though I grew up in a restaurant, I'm an okay cook. My brother-in-law, this guy right here in this green shirt, is an amazing cook. Amazing cook. And I remember one of the first holidays when my sister and him, had just got married, and he was going to make dinner for all of us for one of the holidays. And I remember, in the holiday, usually people start cooking around 9 o'clock in the morning, and then they're ready to eat about 4 or 5 o'clock. And I remember, we're all, playing games, having fun, enjoying family time. And I watched him while he was cooking, and he would start making something. Then he would stop, realize he was out of maybe a certain spice, a vegetable, or something, some core ingredient. He would stop and he'd rush over to the store, pick up whatever he was missing, come back and continue cooking. And then I kept watching. I noticed this actually happened 3-4 times. So multiple times he was starting to continue to cook. Then he had to stop and go to the store. And so it really took him realistically probably like 6 to 8 hours to make the whole meal. Fast forward a year later, he's going to make the dinner again, our meal again. This time, though, I noticed he did not go to the store at all. He started cooking about maybe, I don't know, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And within a couple hours, the whole meal was amazing and completely done. Now, what was the difference here? The difference here was in the first time when he was making us a meal, he didn't have all the things he needed to make the great meal. So he had to go back and forth, back and forth. The second time, the second year, he knew he had everything dialed. So he was able to be more efficient and smooth. It still took a couple hours, but it was way faster as a result. And this is just like a sales process. A lot of times, if we miss key things in the discovery, we have to go back and forth, extra phone calls, extra Zoom calls, going back and forth, talking to multiple people. And as a result, every step elongates the sales process. And over time, what happens is you naturally will lose deal momentum, and you'll either lose a deal or it just takes forever to close. This is actually why most people typically think their sales cycle is really long, but once they start working with them, their sales cycle that's averaging, say, a year, it gets cut down to 4 or 5 months because we're controlling controllables. All right. So the key is when you run an awesome discovery, you can gather everything you need up front. This might be over 1 call or 2 calls or a couple different calls, and that'll help you drive everything else that goes from after that, which will shorten down your sales cycle and lead to a better end result. So similar to my brother-in-law, he now had he had the same great dinner, but cut down by 30, 40, 50% plus. Okay. So let me pause for a second. I'll make sure that makes sense. If that makes sense to you, just type in your favorite emoji. Type in your favorite emoji if that makes sense to you. All right, cool. Beautiful. All right, good. All right, good. All right. So, all right. So next time when you see your family taking forever to cook, you can just tell them the story. Make sure you're properly prepared like a disco. All right. So with that being said, let's talk about the buyer's journey, right? Because this is all going to kind of stair stack. So I want to talk about the truth about the buyer's journey. This is what we wish would happen. And if you can't read it, I'm going to read it to you because I know I have terrible handwriting. So I'm going to read it to you. But this is what I believe when I started. So when you look at kind of a prototypical sales process, you get their attention, you get their interest, they make a decision, and then take action and they buy. This could be over one day, one call, multiple calls, etc. But just kind of generally speaking, that's what we believe is going to happen. We get their attention on a cold call. We book the meeting. We have a great meeting with them. We gain their interest through discovery. We present them. They say it looks awesome. They make a decision and they buy from us. Everyone's happy. You make a bunch of money. Job's super easy. That's it. And the truth is, a lot of times, especially when we're new in sales, this is what I used to believe. I used to think, if I follow this magic script or process, they will automatically close. That's the wrong belief. That's just unrealistic. Okay. Here's what really happens. Like, same kind of frame, but where do they go? They go all over. They go all over. This is what really happens. Like, you're working the process, decision maker changes, they quit, they go somewhere else, their needs change, whatever happens. And we're still thinking it's linear. It's not, right? But the right belief is this: if I follow this framework, my win rate increases. All right. So if I follow this framework, my win rate increases. So it's not about, I'm going to follow exactly step by step, boom, boom, like this. But if you have a skeleton to follow, your chances of success will go up automatically. Okay. So for example, let me explain. So here's some controllable factors. These are things that you personally can control. You can control how you prepare for a discovery call. You can control your attitude. You can control how you ask questions. You can control the frameworks that you follow. You can control how you follow up. You can control what you say and do, etc. Here are things that you cannot control, okay? Marketplace conditions and changes. So if suddenly, if your country is shut down because of COVID, you can't control that. You cannot control that, okay? You can't control economic instability. If your country has instability because maybe your country printed too much cash and inflation skyrockets and now it's not stable, you can't control that either. You can't control changes in your company. You can't control if your decision maker has personal things that happen in their own lives that impact them at work, etc. So you kind of get my point there. Okay. So moral story is, you want to follow solid frameworks. You want to modify to fit your market, industry, etc. And nothing is absolute. You want to control the controllables and focus on increasing your win rate, because nobody closes at 100%. No matter how good you are, nobody closes 100%. And anyone that says, oh, I close at 9% plus, frankly, they're probably not running enough sales calls, right? Or they're being very selective and they're actually limiting their growth. Okay. So let me pause for a second. If that makes sense so far, just type in a 3. Type in a 3 that makes sense so far. If you follow me so far. Beautiful. Beautiful. Awesome. Great. So this is why it's so key that you're in programs like High Rise here, because they're frameworks. They're designed to give you a foundation to stand on so you can feel really good, build confidence off it. But again, you have to trust the process. You have to trust the foundations for it to work. All right, cool. So let's talk about this whole process here, right? This is kind of hard to see, but this is kind of a small, I'm going to kind of show you all this, okay? This is what we're going to break down, like literally how you run the whole process, all right? So let's get into it. So I'm not going to go through all this stuff up here, but there's a bunch of other stuff you can do as well, part of your process, but I'm going to scroll over here to this part. All right, we're going to go step by step. So here's the thing. So before I go to, again, remember, this is a framework. So remember, your prospects are not robots. So it's not like checkbox, because some people see this like, oh, I'm going to checkbox all these things, I'm going to nail this deal. That's not how sales works. All right. This is going to be very fluid. But again, this is a framework, so you feel really good. All right. It's no different than when you watch any type of athlete in any sport. They have frameworks they follow, they master. So once they're actually on the field and they're playing whatever game they're playing, they're able to adjust because their foundation is really strong. All right. So one of the key things really key for discovery calls is what you really want to think about for you is, how do I make sure, number one, I have a good show up rate? So before we can get into discovery calls, like, you can't run a discovery call if they don't show up. That's the first piece. So what you got to ask yourself is, what am I doing to increase my show up rate? So that's one of the first things you want to kind of think about, because ideally, depending on, every industry is a little bit different, depending on lead source, where you get it from, you really should be running at least an 80% plus show up rate. All right. Anything less than that is a little bit concerning, meaning if you book 10 discovery calls, at least 8 are showing up on the call, right? And 2 are like, let's call them no show. They just don't show up at all, right? Now, you can have people reschedule because that happens, but at the very least, if they're reaching out to you first, that's a better, more qualified, high intent lead. So the thing you
Marcus,
probably want, go ahead. Yeah.
On that one, Marcus, sorry for me to jump in. To those that just started the program, right, and have just maybe started cold calling, they may think, well, wait a minute, if I book a discovery call through a cold call, why don't 100% of all people show up? So some may think 100% is natural. Why is 100% not natural? When does it happen in your experience?
Great question.
People don't show up.
Yeah, so I think number one, there is a lot like how you actually, excuse me, how you set it up on the call is so key too. Now, here's what I find: if I compare 2 salespeople, if they were to say the exact same thing and they end the call the exact same way, whoever has more confidence on the phones, saying the exact same words, will have a higher show up rate. That's really, really important. So a lot of times, even your attitude on the phones is so key, because if you sound too lackadaisical or too easy, if you will, and not important enough, they're not going to want to show up to the call, because if they don't see value in the call, they're not going to show up. That's the first piece. All right. So here's what I mean by it. For example, if you're like, okay, is it possible we can kind of chat for at least a couple minutes on, say, like, maybe, Friday at 8:00? That's really loose, right? Versus when you're locking up a time, say, okay, cool. So Dominic, that sounds great. I'm excited to chat with you in more detail. So make sure we're on the same page here. How does Friday at 8 a.m., Mountain Standard Time, Eastern Standard Time, whatever time that you're selling into, how does that work for you? Yes, it does. Okay, cool. And then even how you can wrap it up as well can help increase the show up rate, right? So for example, that might sound something like, awesome, cool. So looking forward to chatting with you more on Friday, 8:00. I'm going to send you an invite right now to your calendar. Did that show up yet? Cool. Can you accept that? Great. So looking forward to seeing you then. Aside from yourself, if you absolutely love what we discussed, is there anyone else who should be part of that meeting as well to ensure, we can actually make progress on potentially working together? Yeah, we should include Dominic as well. He's my CEO. Great. Can you make sure Dominic is there? I'll do my best. I can't guarantee it. No problem at all. So if he can't make it, not a problem at all, but I just want to make sure we can at least invite him and we can plan next steps from there. Is that cool? Yes. Great. Okay. Let me also give you my direct number just in case something changes. Boom. So now, you're just by even doing that, you're already ahead of like 90% of SDRs, just so you know, because you're like really hammering down that you're going to show up and that you mean business. That's really, really key. Okay. And then of course, calendar invites, you can do an email nurture sequence. We do a bunch of things. We do like video messages. We do all these things actually to drive a high show up rate. So that helps us. All right. So when you think about it, what you want to think about is like, okay, first step is when you turn that Zoom camera on, right, for that call, did they show up? Okay. No. Follow up within 10 minutes to call time to reschedule. And then you go back into the sequence again. Yes, they did show up. Great. They did show up. Great. So now you go to here, right? Now, depending on what you want to do, some people want to leave their cameras on the whole time. It depends on really your internet. Because some of my sales teams, their internet's a little spotty, I like to have our cameras on first, make sure they know it's a real person, it's legitimate, and then turn the camera off to continue the call. But it's entirely up to you. Some people want to leave the call the whole time. That's totally fine. But just remember, if you have weak internet, it'll actually be more distracting, in my opinion, if your internet's cutting in and out, and you're trying to have a conversation. It's very hard to have a flow. Okay. So that's optional. It's up to you. But first off, you should set an agenda and gain some sort of agreement. Okay. This could be what they call a standard upfront contract, but you really should be crystal clear on why you're there and what's going to happen next. And then do they agree to it? And really, it's nothing crazy, because it might sound something like, hey, Dominic. So, first off, thank you again for our time today. Really excited to chat with you. Like I mentioned, when we chatted on the phone a little bit earlier this week, we worked with a number of different organizations in the specific space that they're in to help achieve desired objective 1, 2, and 3. So I want to do today, just ask you a few questions, really get to understand your business on a deeper level. Then I'll make some recommendations based off of that. If it all sounds good from there, we can plan next steps to work together, if that makes sense to you. Is that cool? Yes. Boom. Very simple. You can tweak that. That's just a framework right there. If they say no to that, potentially they're not a good fit. You may need to disqualify, because remember, you cannot sell to closed-minded people, right? You cannot sell to closed-minded people, right? So, and if they're closed-minded, they definitely will not have a conversation with you, because the goal here is not to interrogate them. We won't go through next. The goal is to have a conversation with them, so that way they actually will have, go deeper. Okay. So if they do not agree with it, like, no, that sounds terrible, I don't want to do that, Marcus, I don't know why I'm on this call, you politely disqualify, you end the call, not a problem. And now you're better off taking that time, whether it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes that you had for that call, and doing something that's going to drive towards what I call IPAs, income producing activities, things that either add more deals to your pipeline, move deals in pipeline, or make sure customers are having great success. Okay. So let's just say they say yes. Then you want to start going to discovery questions using open-ended questions. All right. You want to utilize what I call the code for discovery, which is you connect, open, direct, and expand. Sorry, open them up. These are all open-ended questions. Okay. Then you can go into qualification questions if necessary, right? Depending on your specific role. And then you want to uncover, this is the big stuff. This is what I call the buyer beliefs. These are the core buyer beliefs that they must have in order to be able to move forward with you, right? So here's what I mean that specifically. So these are questions you want to uncover. For example, do they believe they have pain? And it's not as simple as like, do you have pain, right? You uncover, like, what are they currently doing? Where's the gap? All right. What type of pain do they have? All right. In their current situation. And that could be necessarily, it could be pain from that they're already growing and they're outgrowing what they're currently doing and they need a solution. Or, it's a pain in where they are right now, where they want to go, where there's an issue, there's a gap there. Okay. You also want to cover a cost of inaction. This is what I call a COI. If they do not take action, what's the cost to them? Sometimes they're very direct costs. Sometimes they're very indirect. So for example, a direct cost would be if maybe they don't do a certain type of reporting properly to the government, then they'll get taxed, at a higher percentage. So that's a very direct cost. An indirect cost might be if they keep doing what they're currently doing, their people are going to be wasting time. I don't know. Let's say it's a sales software that makes things more efficient for administrative work. That means their admins to be wasting 10 hours a week trying to manually input data versus having a software that can save the 10 hours a week, and 10 hours a week they can do things that actually make the company money. Okay. Again, example, cost of inaction. You must be also clear of their desire, right? What do they truly desire, right? For the company, for themselves, what's their true desire? What type of, do they have doubts? Do they doubt that they can achieve their desired objectives or solve their current pain with their existing solution in place, whether that's doing it in-house with their own company, or if they are doing it with a different vendor? Okay. The next one, number 5, do they believe they have resources? This is like, do they believe, like, I hate to say budget here because some people say, bad, but budget can be a tricky thing, because the truth is, if you are working with a highly qualified decision maker, they can go get more budget. They can go get more funds. They can get more funding. They can go go to the banks and apply for more credit to get what they need to get from you, depending on what you're selling. So do they believe they can get resources? If they don't, again, they can't move forward. Do they believe they have decision-making power, right? Or do they believe they can influence the other people in the process to make a decision? And last but not least, do they have trust? All right. Do they trust? Do they believe they have trust? So, and they must have firm beliefs on all of these. So for example, if I had to rate these on a scale 1 to 10 on how much they believe, 1 be they do not believe it at all, 10 to be the high believe it, these should all be 10s. So your questions should have deep follow-up questions, including, recapping and re-clarifying for true understanding. And this is for not just the person you're talking to, but if it's a multi-stakeholder process of multiple decision makers, for every single one, you have to uncover these buyer beliefs. And of course, only when you do that are you able to actually move the deal forward. The mistake many people make is they actually miss some of these steps. So then the deal gets stalled out or they lose momentum. All right. So I'll give you a really good example. So one of my clients yesterday, I was talking to him, Nick, really great guy. And one of the things was, it's a really big opportunity, but he moved so quickly in the opportunity, he actually missed a lot of these steps here. So there was no real pain. There's no real cost of inaction. There was a little bit of desire. They just happened to be cheaper. So there was some desire. There wasn't really any doubt. Resources they believed in, but we didn't have decision-making power. and we did have trust. So we missed like 50% of these. And as a result, and once I dug into it, he said, hey, I'm not sure why they said no last minute. I'm like, this is why. We miss all these steps up front. That's what happened, right? So oftentimes in sales, we usually pay for the mistakes that we made, yesterday, today, right? So this is why you always want to look into your process. How can you improve it? Okay. Let me pause for a second. If that makes sense so far, type in a 4 so far. Type in a 4 if you're following me so far.
We a question on that one, Marcus. Now you shared the framework, which is great, and the buyer believes. I mean, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think it is 7 or 8. And you may think, oh man, if I get through all of these, that may come across like an interrogation.
Yeah.
So how do you make it seem natural? And do you really tick all of these off, or do you do it in a multi-stage, like 2 or 3 discovery call conversations? And how many questions is too many?
Great question. So I think a lot of times, especially when you're new in sales, we're thinking to ourselves, okay, so that's at least 7 questions I'm going to ask, and maybe there's some follow-ups, might be 10 or 15 questions, and I definitely don't want to interrogate, which is very, very normal to think. So what's really most important is, are they deriving value from the meeting? And people derive value when they get clarity. I'm going to say again, people derive value when they get clarity. So this is why it's coming in with the expert mindset that you can truly help them is so key. So I don't think about as how long is this meeting going to last? How many questions can I ask? I'm thinking to myself, how can I best serve them? So you want to think, just how can I best serve them by asking some of these questions? Because what doesn't really work is if you ask one question and then you move to the next question without some sort of additional follow-up. All right. So I'll give you examples. So if I was asked a question of, you mentioned you're using company X for whatever software. If you reflect back over the last couple of years, what are, say, 2 or 3 things you want them improve on for you? They're going to tell you something. Okay. And you got to just take notes like, okay, got it. Let me move to the next question. Now it's very much interrogation. But let's just say, for example, they say, well, one of the things is, it would be nice if they had a little bit faster customer response time. So now you have what's like a little thread. You want to pull onto a thread now and start pulling. It's like a layer of an onion. You want to start peeling layers of onion. So now you want to dive a little deeper. So, hey, Dominic, I appreciate you. You mentioned that. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? What do you mean? Well, it's like when we're having issues with it, when the software is a little bit buggy, I'll send in on a customer chat, and sometimes it takes a while to get a response. Wow, tell me a little more about that. Well, it's like how long does that take? Oh, it takes like usually 3 to 5 days. 3 to 5 days. Wow. And for you, how does that actually impact you in your job? Wow, a lot of times if the software is not working, then suddenly I have like 5 days worth of data backed up, and then I'm really stressed, and I need to take care of all of that once the software starts working again. Again, go deeper. So now, if you notice here, like you're just grabbing the thread, you're going deeper, 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 because now you're giving them clarity. You're making them realize that, hey, what's happening is not okay, right? So that's why with these, it's not about how many questions can I ask. It's how can I uncover the root of these? And the truth is, the questions you ask are the most important thing, right? And the first question kind of peels a layer back, but it's a follow-up question. And if you are truly asking because you care and you're authentic and you are curious to actually help, then you can actually, and it's actually relevant, then they're going to see more value in having a conversation with you. And I'll give you a really good example. So I remember I was with my reps, and we had this meeting with this. It was a grocery store that we're meeting with the owner. That's just the business we sold into. Really big opportunity. And we had a tight like 30-minute hard stop because he had to go to the meeting. And we're deep into it, and because we're not just asking arbitrary questions, we're asking specific questions, and we're diving deeper through all these things. We get to 30 minutes, or we get to 5 minutes before, and I stop my guy. I say, hey, Mr. Decision Maker, I know you have a hard stop, you have a doctor's appointment, whatever appointment you have in 5 minutes. I want to continue a conversation. What are your thoughts? And the next thing he said, which I absolutely love, because that's the only thing I said. He said, Marcus, this has been an amazing conversation. It's clear I need a solution. He's like, he said, I literally don't know what you have to sell me, but I know I need it. And at this point, we had not presented a single thing. But because the questions are so good, we can cover all these things. He now had clarity on the situation. So we set another meeting. Ended up being a 2-call close. We closed it later. It was pretty cool, right? But that's actually the power of discovery. If you do a really good job of discovery, they'll see value in wanting to have a deeper conversation with you because you're actually helping them. And if they don't want to have another meeting with you, you probably didn't do a good job of discovery. That's just the truth. It's painful to hear, but the truth is they're not going to waste their time with you if you do not show them value. Okay. So I'll focus less on how many questions, et cetera, versus, hey, how can I get to these as fast as possible? In a way, it's very conversational. So this is where, from a framework's perspective, you want to be able to pause and digest what they're saying and then respond accordingly to that. It's not about the mistake a lot of people make when they're new is they ask one question, and while they're talking to you, they're like, okay, my next question I'm going to ask is this. I'm going to ask this question next. And when you do that, they can feel it. It becomes like you get interrogated or like you're interviewed, and they get done, and they're like, well, I'll see you later. Like, email me some information, send me something, send me a proposal, and you're like, I didn't really have it. So this is the difference between being transactional versus transformational. Transactional means I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. Transformational is going deeper with each one. Does that make sense, Dominic?
And I'm happy you're driving home the points. I think that's, and some of you on the call may recognize themselves in what you just said, Marcus, because when we do discoveries and we run discovery calls, we get feedback, lots of times, our students get hung up on using a framework because they feel they have to tick off boxes.
Correct.
I need to ask this, I need to qualify that. Oh man, I can't ask too many questions. And it's because you, especially when you're new to it, you tend to be more busy with yourself rather than focus all your attention on what the other person is saying and try to curiously find out a pain. So I'm very happy you drive home that point, right? Focusing on the other person, trying to find one point and then drive deep into that point, what it means to them, what the implication is.
That's it. So let me give you a couple of easy kind of bonus questions, okay? Because sometimes I also understand where if you're new to an industry, they say something, you're like, this seems like it's important, but I don't know what to ask next. I don't know how to kind of pull out more. So here's some really easy go-to phrases. I would write these down. These are really simple, very simple. And obviously you probably want to translate for whichever language you're selling into, but and obviously adjust it so it fits culturally, makes sense. So for example, a very simple one is, hey, can you tell me a little more about that? Real easy. Whatever they say. Hey, we're struggling with high turnover in our sales team. Can you tell me a little more about that? Real easy. Or can you elaborate about that? Can you elaborate on that, please? Really easy. That's an easy injection, right? And depending on how deep you go, you can also incorporate this. How does blank impact you? Really simple. How does a high sales turnover impact you? So you can kind of see where you have these basic frameworks, and obviously you have to adjust it based off the questions you're asking. But now when you have kind of these frameworks, it's easy to answer around. Okay, so good. So this is such a core point right here. And then of course, obviously depending on whatever you're selling as well, you may need to get specific specifications as well to actually be able to make an offer proposal. Actually ask for the business. Okay, so that's obviously kind of obvious, but good to point out as well. But if you notice here, even from the order perspective, I don't put that first. So a mistake a lot of people make. They get on the call, they say, all right, cool. What do you have? How much are you spending? What exactly are the specifications? Let me see what I can do. If you do that, just like that, it becomes a price battle. You're now selling on price because there's no value. There's no beliefs tied in. Okay. So once you get to this point here, what's important to understand here, if you notice here, I did not say present anything. I didn't say drop a value proposition of your solution. I didn't say, start pitching and they say, oh, I have this problem, start pitching. I didn't say, you should do zero pitching here. No pitching, no presenting, no selling. There's zero selling here. Like when you do this effectively, when you ask these questions, they will sell themselves that, because when you think about this, every sales call, you really need to have two sales. Number one, they need to sell themselves that they have a problem. If they do not believe they have a problem, it's very hard to sell them a solution. So I'm gonna say it again. They must be sold they have they have a problem. Only after they're sold are they going to want to buy. I'll give you a really good example. Let's just say, for example, if you were on, say, Facebook or Instagram, and you start scrolling through, and you see some of the advertisements on there for weight loss. If you do not if you're not sold you have a problem that you are out of shape or you need to lose weight, you don't care about that ad. But if you were sold that you have that issue, if you're like, oh man, I just stepped on a scale, I'm not happy. I took a picture of myself at the beach. I don't look great. I'm in the Canary Islands. I don't look great. I'm not talking about you, Dominic. I'm saying in general, right? I don't look good. Oh man, I'm still have a problem. Now, when I see the advertisement for weight loss, I'm more open to that solution. That's really, really important. Okay. So really key. And then you want to, before you go on, you want to recap and clarify this fell down a little bit. You want to recap and clarify everything you learned. So you just want to make sure everything you learned so far, is it accurate? Really, really important. Do they agree? If they're like, well, yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it, that's not a lot of confidence there. So potentially you might have missed something. So you want to go back and go deeper. You probably missed something. You didn't either ask the right questions or the right follow-up questions. So you probably want to go back to this flow here. So you want to think, what are the core things I missed, right? Really, really key, because the mistake a lot of people make is they continue forward and they want to present or pitch, but they actually have not earned the right to actually pitch because they do not believe there's a problem. Now, let's just assume they agree. They say, yes, cool. Are they qualified? Okay. If they are not qualified, you go follow the no line and you go back up here and you politely disqualify and you end the call. Your time is the most valuable thing you have. Once you spend it, you do not get it back. Time is infinitely more valuable than money. All right. The more money you make, the more you realize that. Okay. So time is infinitely more valuable than money. Now, let's say they are qualified. If they are qualified, did you hit all the necessary questions to earn the right to actually present, do a demo, plan next steps, etc.? If you did not, again, no, go back and go deeper. Again, you missed something. All right. Again, the most common mistake that most people make is they think I feel pretty good. Like, would you bet all your savings and investment accounts on that? If you get cryptocurrency, would you bet all your crypto that you have it completely nailed? If you can't say 100% yes, then go back and ask more questions. Okay. If it is a yes, cool. Then you want to think to yourself, is it a complex deal with multiple layers? This could be decision makers, external, internal factors. And this could be their company, your product, your offering, etc. All right. And for example, here, and depending on what you're selling, some people are selling something really complex and need engineers to put together some of the pricing together with them. Totally fine. So at that point, what you don't want to do is present, because clearly you're not quite ready yet. Okay. So once you have that dial, if it's a yes, if it's a yes to a complex deal with any of these layers in there, then you want to plan out next steps with the prospect, with firm action items for each party, with a rough timeline of the process. Because if you find out maybe they have all these things, but just from a timing perspective, maybe they're going through year end and a big audit, timing may not make sense to try to book a meeting next week when they're going to be distracted anyways. You may need to delay a little bit and slow your next play a little bit down. Okay, slow down a little bit. Plan next steps, then you end the call, send a recap email next steps. Okay, now if it's a no, meaning decision can be made on the spot, then you present your solution and you go into presenting. Okay, so let me pause for a second here, because that's really the core part of the discovery process there. So we can definitely open up for any questions or whatever you want to do. I know we have about 10 minutes left. Oh, I can't hear you. Sorry. Maybe it's mine.
We have a couple of questions. So cool. I know Sebastian asked two that I collected that I'll fire up at you. Anyone else, please feel free to ask, right? I know Marcus said a whole mouthful, like all great stuff in there. Yep. To all of you that haven't hit discovery, that will become relevant to you very soon. You'll be thinking back to his words, but for now, some questions. Okay. So one question I think that we had earlier is on the pre-call flow. Okay. Do you automate that pre-call flow by any means? You know, do you send mails, videos? You mentioned something, or do your sales reps do it kind of manually by hand? How do you do that?
Yeah, so everyone's a little bit different, right? So we have a mixture. So I'm gonna go back to this right here. So there's some simple stuff that we do. It's really easy. So number one, I mean, even when we're booking the calls, we literally will pull up a Calendly link and just book it for them. Okay. And the reason we like that is because the online calendar has a bunch of reminders on there and text message, et cetera, which is really, really nice already. But I've actually gone and I've customized all the templates for the reminders as well. So it's a little bit more personalized as well. That's the first thing. Okay. So that's pretty much just automated. Okay. The email nurture sequence also automated as well. Now it's pure value. So we just send pure value. We say, hey, here's some high value stuff. Check this out, check this out, check this out. Check out these things that are really relevant to you specifically. Okay. Now, if you don't have it, don't just arbitrarily send random things. You don't want that. But so it has to be of high value for them. If you don't have anything to send them yet, don't send them anything. Okay. These things only will help it. What you don't want to do is incorporate things that's going to hurt your process. We also have something what's called a slide broadcast. So this is a little more ninja. This is just soft because I own my business. I can do whatever I want. So I have a software I use called Slide Broadcast, where when they book it, they also get an automated voicemail from me. All right. And it's automated. It calls their phone, leaves a voicemail drop for me. It's really, really simple to use. And it's just hey, I'm excited to chat with you super soon. You know, by the way, here's some of that stuff. You would do that in your role. It's something that we do. So you don't have to have that. But then the video message is really powerful. So this works for us. This will work for you as well. Because here's the thing. So most of the time at this point, you may have only spoken to your decision maker or prospect, maybe on the phone, maybe in the LinkedIn messaging, maybe on email. And you're still detached from being human to them. Okay. Sounds weird, but they don't know who you are. You're still a stranger to them. So video is really powerful. So we do video. We just film it via Vidyard. So we just film it via Vidyard. We pull up their LinkedIn profile, right? And then we film a quick video and we show our faces too. So this is actually why it's important to make sure whatever's on the camera looks really good. Good lighting, good background, good everything, because this is going to help build their trust. And I mean, worst case scenario, if you don't have you don't have to have this, but if you have a white background and you on video, it's really key. And how you show up on video is really, really important. So it doesn't have to be a minute long, just like 15, 20 seconds is a video. You pull it up and you film it very easily. So do you want me to just do a quick demo and show you guys what I would do? Would that be helpful? I can do it real quick.
What do you think? Yeah, sure. Go for it. Yeah.
Super simple, right? So like, let's just say, for example, let's pull up LinkedIn really quick. Pulls up. Boom.
And all of that, just to put into perspective, right, Marcus, is what you do to make sure they show up
correct
to the meeting that you booked, right?
100%.
So that's all pre-meeting. Yep.
100%. 100%. So this is all pre-meeting. So and I usually would recommend it do the same day of. So like I wouldn't do it like 3 days later, because like right at that point, like you're freshest in their mind. So like let's say the meeting is today is Tuesday. Let's just say the meeting is say Friday. If I book the meeting today before the end of the day, I want to make sure I send this video, right? So I use Vidyard. It's free. You can use whatever you want. So Vidyard, there's a bunch of other ones. Oh, I don't know why it must lock me out. All right, hold on. There you go. All right, you can put whatever video notes, and you can kind of see. You can see my head right there. Can you see my head right there? Yeah.
Yep, we can.
Cool. All right, I hit start recording, and then I hit record. Let's just say I want to record my whole screen. You don't have to do that, but I can give my point there. So let's just say if they were prospecting me, right? It might be like, hey, Marcus, Dominic here with High Rise. Hey, reaching out to you. So excited to chat with you this coming Friday. Just want to put a face to the name so I'm a real person, not a robot. But if you have any questions in the interim, feel free to reach out to me. Have a great day. See you soon. Take care. Boom. Super easy. Okay. Now, don't record what I just did at the back end, but you can't get my point. But this shows up. Boom. I like to change this really quick. Oh, maybe keyboard. Dominic. And then I like to choose the animated thumbnail so they kind of see me moving right there. and then you type in their email, and you can send them via here, and then they get this little cool little GIF moving around in the video, and then you get notified when they watch it. All right.
Perfect.
So you guys saw how fast that was. That was super simple to do, right? So that was like a 15-second video, right? You can add more stuff, but you don't go crazy. The key is simply this: just show them that you're real. All right, that's it. So let me close this out.
And I think to all of you listening, right? Don't put it away as something that only works in the US. I know Sebastian, for example, has used it in the program. Video prospecting is fairly new, especially in Europe.
Exactly.
We use Loom. You see me or our sales trainers give feedback via Loom on tasks. So feel free to use it, play around with it, and make it authentic in your style, right?
Correct.
Give them some of your energy, and just say you're looking forward to the conversation. Boom.
Yeah, if you are boring on the video, it'll actually hurt you, just so you know, right? So it's important to understand that, like, you want to, especially if you're calling to C-level, high-level execs, you need to show up as a person they're going to see value in. It's really important. This is what's called the attractive character. You need to be the character that they want to, they're going to see value in. If they don't see value in the conversation, they will not show up. That's just what happens. It is Vidyard. You got it. Vidyard. Loom works great as well. So Loom works really well as well.
Yep. Perfect. What are some a more general question we had? What are 3 like tips, or like what are like general things that you would recommend a new SDR, that you would recommend your younger self if you were to restart as an SDR to do?
Yeah. So I'll say number 1, get a mentor. Okay, that's the first thing, right? I'm not saying like, pay me. I'm saying like get someone even in your organization that has achieved massive success, like far beyond everyone else consistently. Not a one-hit wonder, meaning they had success one quarter, but they win every single year. Find that person, do whatever you can to have them become your mentor. This will skyrocket you enormously. Number 2, like control the controllables, right? So control controllables. So here's something that I find many SDRs just they just don't do. Like if you do on outbound calling, how much time are you spending practicing? Not just when you make calls, but like how much time are you practicing off hours? So one of the ways, when I first started cold calling, I really struggled. But one way I got really good at it was I literally practiced thousands of times. Like I'm not even joking. I literally would just pretend to be calling, and I would go through all my frameworks and scripting, and I would imagine that I had 5 objections every single time. And I would practice it over and over and over. I would record myself. I would practice relentlessly. I was relentless about it, because that way I knew once I was on the phones, it wasn't that bad. Okay, so number 2, definitely practice. Number 3, all right, really mastering the whole sales process. Today was a great example, because the better of an understanding you have the whole sales process, the more effective you are actually on the front end, because now you know how everything kind of ties together. You're not confused. There's no guesswork. And when you understand that as well, you'll perform at a higher level, and you'll be more of a business professional. And on top of that, it'll actually accelerate you to get promoted as well, because you actually are booking more qualified opportunities, and you're running your process like you own the whole thing. That's probably 3 really easy ones.
Perfect. And I love control the controllables, right? Also something
100%.
to remember easily. Marcus, before we let you off the hook, is what you just showed us, is that something you can share with us, the document?
This one I won't be able to share this one because it's like the way it works. But this one I can share right here for sure. Let me go ahead.
Anything you can, like little gems, little insights of knowledge, please do. Share, and I'll share within our community. I'm sure we'll be extremely grateful for.
Absolutely.
Just virtually looking at you, high risers. Any other questions you have, doubts, concerns, things you're curious about? Great, cool. Thanks. Just shared the well. Google Doc. Beautiful. No, then I hope it's okay for people to reach out to you, Marcus, to maybe send you connection request on LinkedIn. So do make use of that. Build your own network. Start with Marcus. I think a great person to be connected to. Thanks for taking time, Marcus, out of your busy schedule to help us fill in on what great discovery looks like for you. If you have more questions, right, feel free to contact Marcus on LinkedIn. Feel free to contact us. And other than that, thanks so much, everyone, for joining. Happy Tuesday evening. And Marcus, hopefully see you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye. Take care.
Thank you.